Hello everybody. So last year I was in the Altai Mountains in Western Mongolia in the hopes of photographing snow leopards. As you can see, I got the t-shirt and I can report the trip was a resounding success as we had 4 encounters with snow leopards. So while we were there having dinner one night, one of the people that I've traveled with on a few occasions mentioned that there's a trip he did in the past that he would like to do again. And that was to go to Pond Inlet at the northern tip of Baffin Island in Nunavut in northern Canada. So the main focus of that trip is to photograph narwhals, which are the whales with the long tusk on their head. There's also other types of whales such as belugas, possibility of seeing polar bears, seals, and quite a variety of bird life. So we set up a WhatsApp group just to gauge interest amongst people that have traveled together before. And it turns out 4 of us decided that we'd like to do this adventure. So we'll be heading in the first week of June. We'll be going to Pond Inlet, which I have to say for me is probably going to be the easiest travel I've ever done, because it actually starts in my home city. So everybody's got to kind of meet up in the city I live in. And then it's just 2 3-hour flights. It's a flight Ottawa to Iqaluit and then a flight from Iqaluit to Pond Inlet. To get there, we spend a night in the hotel, and then the next day we're going to be packing ourselves and our gear into komatiks. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly. They're big wooden sleds, and they pull these with snowmobiles instead of using dogs now. So, and it's about 5 hours from Pond Inlet to where we're going to be setting up camp. And we're setting up camp right on the ice at the flow edge where the water meets with the ice. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I decided I'd do a bit of a video documentary of this journey. So this is part 1. And part 1 I'm going to be going over the equipment I'll be bringing. I made a few changes from my kit last year, so and the subject matter is a bit different. So let's get into it, and I'm going to start with the bodies I'm bringing. I always travel with at least 2 bodies. So I'm going to be bringing Nikon Z9, which is built like a tank, 46 megapixel resolution, amazing autofocus. This thing they've been improving since the day I bought it through firmware, and it's an amazing camera body. So last year I brought, with the Z9, I brought a Z7 and I also had a Z6, but I decided to trade in the Z6 and I picked up a Z8. Now the reason being that this functions almost identical manner to the Z9, so for muscle memory and things like that, and the focus is much better on this one, and I might have to photograph moving subjects with 2 different types of focal lengths at the same time, so this way I won't have to do any lens swaps. So I'm going to be bringing the Z8 as a second body. They both use different chargers, so I'm going to be packing those. And they also use different batteries, and I'll be bringing spare ones of those. Now the reason I mentioned batteries and chargers is because we're going to a remote location, and it's important not to forget these things, because if you don't have them with you, chances are that you won't be able to find them up there. So it's better to start packing and preparing a little bit ahead of time, either putting stuff aside or making yourself a checklist just to make sure you have everything you need. You might get lucky and somebody in the group might be using the same equipment and you can borrow some things, but better safe than sorry. So the other camera that I brought with me last year was a Sony RX100 Mark V. I used to bring that with me on every trip I go on, but I hardly used it last year. So, and whatever I would have used that for, I was using my phone. And I've upgraded my phone to an iPhone 17 Pro. And I think that's going to replace what I would have used the RX100 Mark V for. So, and actually the phone's sitting right now also on a Insta360 Flow Pro that I'm going to be bringing with me to stabilize some video. And it's got a built-in selfie stick that you can use and put the phone at distance there when you're recording while you're walking and stuff like that. So I'm bringing those. So now, the other thing too I might mention now is memory cards. Bring lots of memory cards. Like I can tell you from experience, you get a sighting, like last year when we saw the snow leopards, it doesn't take long. At 15-20 frames a second, you keep your finger on the shutter for like half a minute, you're accumulating a lot of frames. So bring lots of memory. So now I'm going to go through the lenses. So the lens I'm going to use for wide is going to be, last year I brought the 1430, but the scenery was so vast that it was too wide and I hardly used it. So this year I'm going to bring the 2470 f4 for landscapes, if it's adequate, or even structures and stuff like that, so around the campsite. And so I'll be bringing this with me. For mid-range telephoto, I had two options, 70 to 200, 2.8, and the 100 by 400, 4.5 to 5.6. I decided to go with the 100 to 400 because it's going to be used mostly for compressed landscapes and for larger mammals and at varying distances. Now the aperture is not as bright on the 1 by 400 as the 70 to 200, but the time of year we're going is actually, it's called midnight sun or Arctic days, where it's daylight 24 hours. So the aperture is not as critical unless you really want to blow backgrounds out and stuff like that. But like I say, at these distances, I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference. And especially now with the ISO performance on these new bodies and the noise reduction in the software and everything, I think this will be quite adequate. Now for mammals at a distance and bird life, I'm going to be using the 800 6.3. This thing is amazing. Like I had with me in Mongolia last year, and I'm really happy with the results. I can handhold this thing all day, and I don't get tired. So a really nice lens. And the one thing, if anybody uses telephoto lenses, you recognize this. This is what usually comes with these guys for front element protection. I'm not a big fan of them. Like they're quite bulky and they're not as sturdy as I'd like them. So I did find a company in the States where these are 3D printed lens caps for super telephoto lenses, and they're really nice quality. And so I'm going to put a link here. It's Zemlin Photo. This guy also makes, he's a retired engineer, and he also makes lens hoods and eyepieces and different things for most manufacturers. Well worth to take a look at, especially if you have like super telephotos. So that's all. And the other thing I can mention is, you probably notice, maybe not, but I've replaced the feet on both the 1 by 400 and the 800 with Kirk lens feet, and the reason being that they're Arca Swiss compatible and they have a QD release on the bottom of them. So that's it for the lenses. I also bring a 1.4 teleconverter with me. I'm not a big fan of teleconverters personally, or cropping in body, but they do have their use. Like I did use it on one occasion last year with a sighting we had where the snow leopard was quite distant. So it brings you to 1120 millimeters. I find when you get to these long distances that there's so much stuff happening in the atmosphere and things that you might get a record shot, but not something that's really high quality, unless the light is absolutely amazing. So I'll bring this with me. Something else I bring is a 6-stop ND filter, and this is by Breakthrough. They make really nice filters. I only bring one filter, and I use step-up rings instead of buying multiple filters. So I have a step-up ring for the 1 by 400 and a step-up ring for the 24 by 70. So this is kind of an economical way of doing it. To carry the lenses around, I use two different types of straps. I have this, it says Nikon on it, but it's actually a Blackrapid shoulder strap. And I've updated the attachment with a QD release, which is just as safe as those screw ones and much quicker to get on and off if you're going from hand holding to tripod or monopod mount. So the other strap I'm bringing is one by Peak Design. It's their Slide-Lite, so it's their mid-range weight strap. I like the Peak Design stuff because it's quite practical. They come with these anchors, and you can put the anchors on just not cameras. You can put on lenses or whatever else you might need to carry with a strap, and then you just pop them on and off, and it's like less than a second to pop one side on and off, and so it's really practical and nice quality. So that's pretty much for cameras and lenses. The other thing I'm bringing is my Mini 4 Pro by DJI, the drone. With that comes the DJI RC2 controller and extra batteries. You can see I've got the Peak Design anchors on the RC2 controller, and I use their Slide-Lite strap to hold that around my neck. I also bring ND filters for the drone. I'm not going to go through why you need them, but it's basically to get you to your shutter speed that you want, so that the footage is more cinematic. So you can do some research on that if you like, but this is, I usually bring some of those with me. The other thing I bring is a power bank, really practical in this day and age with people using their phones for just about everything, from video, pictures, and communication and all that. So especially in a remote location, you can use these to recharge your phone. And along those lines, I found through the years that, especially for international travel, instead of bringing a whole bunch of different power adapters with me, I bring a power cord. And the new power cords, you can get them really small. I've got one that I use that's got like USB-C, USB-A ports on it, a bunch of electrical ports on it. So instead of using a whole bunch of different outlets, I can just use one outlet and plug all my components in the power bar. So that's something to keep in mind. And actually, I have a little pouch that I put my chargers and everything that I'm going to be using to charge in it. And then I just have to walk around with that instead of a whole bunch of different things with me. So the bag I'll be using is this one here. I've had this, I think, since 2012 Antarctica. This is the original Kiboko from Gura gear. And I think the biggest benefit that I find with this bag is, first of all, it's really light. It's made from sail material, and it's lasted me this long, and it still looks like it the day I bought it. But the big benefit is their butterfly opening and closing system, which means you can work independently from either side. You don't have to open the whole bag at the same time. So I really like it. And there's also a rain cover that's built in that you can use in case of inclement weather. Along those lines, I also bring, for my lenses, I have like storm jackets or lens covers. I have these. I'm going to bring one for the 1x400 and one for the 800. They are weather sealed, but if it gets really bad, I'll throw these on there. And the other reason I bring these is I use these when I pack my bag, just to secure the lenses of the bodies in there to make sure that everything's nice and snug. And I'm going to mention here something that happened to me years ago in my travel. I made the mistake of not breaking down some of the stuff while I was traveling. And I'm really peculiar on not letting anybody touch my bag, but something happened, and I had a lens mounted on one of the camera bodies. And when I got home and I took the equipment out, the lens with the camera body attached, the lens had actually sheared right off of the camera mount, off the body. So that was a lesson to me that for travel purposes, break everything down. Like, don't leave your lenses attached to the bodies and such. Once you get to your location and you're only the one that's going to be handling your bag, fine, but just a heads up of something that happened to me. The other thing too is for support, to support lenses if we're going to be standing around for a long time. I have a few options. I have a really heavy-duty Gitzo tripod, carbon fiber, but it's a 3 series and it's quite bulky, and I've got a huge FLM ball head on there, so it's like I say, it's built. You could probably hold up a car on there, but it's quite bulky, and I'm limited in my space in my carry-on. And last year to Mongolia, I brought a monopod with me. It's an FLM monopod, and I've got a Wimberley MH100. It's like a gimbal head for monopods that works really well, and it did serve me in Mongolia. But I thought I'd treat myself to slightly better or upgraded support this year. And I have a second Gitzo tripod. It's a GT1542T. The T stands for travel. Like the newer model probably has a different number on it, but it's not as sturdy as the 3 series, but it's quite adequate. And it uses a center column where the 3 series doesn't. So it's not as stable, but the center column at the bottom has a hook that you can actually put some weight on there just to keep it stable. And this has an FLM CB32F ball head on it. And as you can see, there's there's a Wimberley sidekick on here. Now the difference is that the sidekick that you could use as to work your rig as a gimbal with telephoto lenses. But the benefit for me is instead of doing a full Wimberley gimbal head, I bring the sidekick, and if you take the sidekick portion off, then you can still use your ball head as a normal ball head. So it's kind of a two functions in one, which saves you on space. And if you do photography long enough, you know that it's all about compromise. So this is a really nice compromise for me. So it's I'm quite happy to be able to bring this with me. So that pretty much covers everything I've got laid out in front of me. And like I say, if I follow my own advice, I should be okay and not forget anything. So that's it for part one. And what I'm going to do is part two is cover what I bring in my checked luggage. Now you might be thinking, why do I need to know what this guy's bringing in his checked luggage? You'll see the clothing is part of it, but it's not all of it. Like you'll see the clothing, the different combinations, how I pack things. That it minimizes what you need to bring for maximum efficiency type of thing, but it also covers things that you might not think of bringing with you. So through years of experience, I've learned that, oh, I guess I should have brought that with me, and well, hopefully this will cover some of that. So that's it for part one. I will see you in part two.